I'd like to introduce Dr. Erin Whitney, someone who I get to work with closely every single day. Otherwise, Erin, of course, I would have said that you were my favorite speaker, but I get to see you all the time. So, but Erin, she was born and raised in Alaska, in Anchorage, and she has taken a long hiatus outside of the state, first for graduate studies. She has a PhD in atmospheric chemistry. Is that correct? Close enough. Okay. But she's now, and then working at the National Energy Research Lab in Colorado, one of our energy research labs at NREL. And so we have her back here in Alaska now. She is working with the Alaska Center for Energy and Power, and she said she wanted to work on applied energy projects that are challenges that are facing the state of Alaska. And I think we have her hitting the ground running, managing our programs in data collection for the Renewable Energy Fund, the Emerging Energy Technology Fund, and then also a wide range of other projects like working on an integrated system operator for the rail belt and anything else that she can find time to do. So thank you so much, Erin. Please give a big welcome to Erin Whitney.
Good evening. It seems we have a diverse range of audience members tonight. Who of you have lived in Alaska your entire lives? Terrific. How many of you left for a while and then returned? Okay, I think there's a few of you I can see beyond the glare. I'm in the left and came back category. I grew up in Alaska, not in the great city of Fairbanks, but in Anchorage. I left for college and subsequently graduate school. I started a career, I got married, I had kids, I continued my career. I returned with my family about a year ago. I was gone for 20 years. 20 years! That's a long time to keep the dream alive of returning home. Do you ever wonder what it is about this state that grabs a hold of some people such that they can never leave or they feel like they have to return? Maybe it's the smell of the tundra, the colors of the tundra in the fall, or it gets snowed on. Perhaps it's skiing in the snow under the northern lights. Maybe it's wading in this river, sometimes freezing, but determined to haul that fish in. Or it could be hiking on a mountain ridge above tree line during a long summer's night. Or it could be the smells and the sounds of the ocean. It's knowing there's a place where people get out and go, regardless of the weather. I think it's something about extremes. And I don't mean extremes in a crazy way. I just mean extremes in a way that make us feel alive and connected to something greater than ourselves, and which bond us inexplicably. Alaska is a land of extremes. Let's see if we can switch to the slide. Terrific. Whoops. Along the northern and western coasts, we have extreme wind. We have brutal winter storms. Alaska also has cold, extreme cold. We have ice, sea ice, river ice, rime ice, ice fog. In the summers, we also have extremes. Areas in the interior that get down to minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit below zero in the winter can soar to above 90 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. In the southeastern part of the state, communities such as Ketchikan, Juneau, Sitka regularly record rainfall above 100 inches a year. We have 33,000 miles of coastline, half of that of our country, which give rise to tides of over 30 feet. We have unrivaled marine and land animals, both in size and range. I believe the extremes of Alaska and of the Arctic are not only what draw some of us to return, but are also what make Alaska an incredible laboratory with lessons to share with the rest of the world. Especially when it comes to talking about energy for the hundreds of remote off-grid communities in our state, also called microgrids. Places that reach upwards of $10 a gallon or more for the diesel they use for heat and electricity. That's close to $1 per kilowatt in some places. Typically, this fuel arrives once a year or seasonally at best by barge or air tanker, and it can be hindered by ice and foul weather, How is that for extremes? Out of necessity, these communities have become leaders in the experimentation and implementation of novel, non-fossil fuel-based energy solutions. In Western Alaska, we've already heard about Igiugig along Lake Iliamna. They have a diesel powerhouse, but they also have incredible river resources, which allows for hydrokinetic energy. In the north, Nome and Kotzebue, larger communities of several thousand people each, use substantial wind penetration to offset their diesel use. In the community of Eagle in the interior, they take advantage of an abundant solar resource. They've installed 24 kilowatts of solar arrays to offset their diesel use. And in the south, Kodiak uses a combination of megawatt wind turbines and hydropower to meet virtually all of its power needs. They rarely turn on their diesel generators. This state has such a diverse array of environments to test technologies in communities with challenging circumstances. Getting half of their energy from non-fossil fuel sources is something they talk about all the time. In fact, we have an explicit state mandate to reach 50% penetration by 2025. Accomplishing that in the lower 48 would be remarkable. But these extremes, this wildness, these energy challenges, these aren't the only reasons I returned to Alaska. I returned to Alaska because working on these challenges impacts people in real ways. My dad has a saying. He says, life is about people. Let me repeat that. Life is about people. He used to say that to me when I was a little child, and I could never get it out of my head. I still can't. It resonates within me very deeply. I used to think it was about being nice to people, being respectful of people. I went to college, I studied chemistry and physics. I spent 2 summers working on the Juneau ice field. I went to graduate school and I studied climate change studies and atmospheric chemistry. I loved, and I still love, understanding the natural world and all of its phenomena. But it didn't quite square with that mantra in the back of my head. Somewhere along the way, I realized that being nice to people and holding people close, while certainly important, is only half of the equation. The other half of the equation is the impact that our lives have on people. Coming back to Alaska has made my connection to people complete, because here, working on energy challenges, the impact my work has is tangible. Energy is all about people. Helping communities analyze and optimize their energy resources and energy mixes isn't just theoretical. It has real consequences. It affects how much communities pay for their diesel, for their heat and electricity, and how much money they have left for other priorities such as health and education. Which curiously brings me to solar energy. Solar photovoltaics, solar PV, solar panels. The concept behind this technology is beautiful. It's chemistry and physics. Photons from the sun interact with a semiconductor material to produce electricity. The material properties which give rise to these effects could consume a lifetime of inquiry and research. But what intrigued me the most about solar technology in Alaska is the fact that it's the seemingly most oxymoronic. I can't help it. I'm a scientist and I love puzzles. Everybody knows we have wind, water, and fossil fuels. But sun? Above the Arctic Circle in winter when there's no light? Come on. But I would venture to you that solar energy is perhaps our most untapped resource in this state. And as such, it has the most potential. I'd like to share a few facts with you about solar technology in Alaska, some of which may surprise you. There are no moving parts, nothing to ice up, nothing to break when it moves. It just sits there and generates electricity. That's beautiful. The cold temperatures of the Arctic also reduce electrical resistance, and solar arrays regularly exceed their rated capacity. This is a graph showing voltage increases with decreasing temperature. You can see increases of about 10%. That's the take-home message. We also have clear air in the Arctic and albedo effects, meaning reflected radiation from the snow, which new technologies are more efficiently capturing. And would you believe it, the total amount of solar resource in Alaska, of annual total solar resource, is greater than that of Germany, which is notable because Germany has the greatest total installed solar capacity of any country in the world. This is a graph prepared by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. You can see here that Alaska shows a solar resource. Let's just go back there. There we go. Who's monkeying with me? All right, a solar resource in the 12 or 1,300 kilowatt hours per square meter per year. Germany is less than that. And that's an annual graph. Another graph shows the solar resource for Alaska and the United States in April, showing that we have quite a lot of solar resource in the spring in Alaska compared to the continental United States. Let's look at some of the solar installations that are installed around the state already. Here we go. In the Northwest Arctic Borough, we have solar panels on the Deering Water Tower and in Shugnak. Not pictured, the community of Cake in southeast Alaska has installed solar panels on a community building, which in combination with energy efficiency measures has allowed them to hire another teacher. And in Anchorage, which isn't necessarily a microgrid, the Cook Inlet Housing Authority has installed solar panels on low-income housing, as well as a commercial building. But I know, the elephant in the room here is, what about solar in the winter months when there isn't any light? Well, first of all, those conditions are just above the Arctic Circle, which certainly doesn't characterize the entire state. And even in low light condition, we have diffuse reflected light from the sun, which newer technologies are capturing more and more efficiently. And in areas above the Arctic Circle, one can imagine the possibility of utilizing solar energy for seasonal power loads, such as fishing villages in the summer. In the winter, when there isn't any light, the wind resource is often stronger, offering possibilities of combining a summer solar resource with a winter wind resource, and many variations on that theme. Finally, I'd like to show you the prices of solar components have dropped precipitously in the last several years. This is a graph showing different price categories for a residential, commercial, and utility ground mount systems. And what you can see here, the balance of systems is labor, and then the inverter, and then the module in blue. And the take-home message here is that in just several years, the prices have plummeted, making solar economical for the first time. Part of my research involves surveying solar installations around the state to evaluate such factors as cost and performance, which are well understood in the lower 48, which are largely still a mystery up here. Questions like, how much do the modules cost? What are the other cost factors, such as transportation and installation? What are the potential for cost reductions? How do the solar panels perform relative to their rated capacities? How do they degrade? And how much do they affect the residential cost of electricity? In the next year, we will have answers to those questions. And it is my hope that for the first time, we will be able to have a data-driven discussion about the prospects for solar in Alaska. We will be able to answer questions such as where we should put solar panels, what types of solar panels we should install, the kinds of solar technology we should use, the times for payback, how much diesel is offset, and what other technologies solar can be paired with. To me, one of the most exciting things about figuring out solar technology here is that it benefits not just Alaska, but other remote communities and microgrids in the world. Other communities may not have our Arctic climates and conditions, but learning how to integrate solar and maintain solar arrays is directly transferable to other places. We can use the knowledge that we gain to help solve similar problems in other communities. Because, as my dad said, life is about people. Thank you very much.